morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this morning's seminar. Today we will be discussing good agricultural practices. We need to look at the prevention of produce contamination, and this starts at the farm and continues to the consumer. The reason we need to adopt GAP is to prevent microbial, chemical, physical contamination of fresh produce, to ensure the production of quality produce in a sustainable and yet environmentally sound manner, to facilitate traceability and accountability through all stages of crop production from the farm to the consumer. Traceability and accountability is very important because we're talking about records, and again, we'll be talking about this later on in the presentation. What are the components of GAP? Site selection and land prep, crop management, soil fertility, irrigation and water quality, pesticide use, workers' health and hygiene, farm records and traceability, harvesting and post-harvesting handling. These are the components of GAP which will be discussed. I will look at each individual component and what are the GAP practices under those. Site selection and land prep. In any farm operation, it's very good to actually research the history of that land before you actually start to plant or do anything on that. What we need to find out is if, from that assessment or research, we need to ascertain if there's any possible risk of contamination to humans from previous use. For example, was it used for pasture? If we look into a land that was used for pasture under production, and we see they're keeping livestock on that land, the fecal matter from the livestock, that's the source of contamination. So when you prepare your land, if that's not composted and cured properly, that introduces a risk of contamination risk to your crops. Was it used for waste disposal? Was it a dumping site for other non-agricultural stuff like industrial chemicals, or people dumping garbage, solid waste such as like metal, glass, that kind of stuff? All these things we have to consider in terms of researching land use. Are there any possible contamination sources nearby? Now, you might have your farm layout, but then again, you might be downwind from a livestock operation. You got to be concerned that if surface runoff of that operation is coming into your land, that's another point source of contamination. Is the area prone to flooding? You know, water, when the area floods and water carries stuff in it, again, that can be introducing contaminants into your farm crop land. Based on that research now, the best thing you can do is actually do a site map or farm map of the area, where then you will just pinpoint key points in your landscape, where your fields are located, where your buildings are, where you have other farms or other housing around, so that you'll be able to identify these points. Now, in doing that site map, it allows you to identify hazards on the farm site and the hazards off the site. Highlight any other land use operation near the site, identify structures, drains, catchment areas, ponds. Once you have done that site map, it can serve as a reference point for future assessments. Anytime you need to come back and do assessment of your land, of your operations, the map helps you to guide any assessments in future time. This is an example, just a hand-drawn site map, but I guess you can also get actual cadastral or map for actual town and country planning. But the key thing is to highlight key parts of your farm, identify your fields, as if I have your field 1, field 2, field 3. I have my housing, I have my livestock area, then identify around the area what I have grassland, cane fields, even the main road. All of these are key components you need to access, so when you assess your farm, you pinpoint if there's any hazards or anything you need to be aware of. Key component soil testing. This should be done to ascertain the soil chemical and physical properties. We need to know if the soil needs amended, if you need to add organic matter. We know that land prep operation involves a number of operations, and these operations should be done at optimum moisture content. We don't want to be doing land prep when the soil is too wet or when it's too dry. Too wet can lead to problems with soil compaction. If it's too dry, it can lead to a strain on the equipment just to prepare the land, depending on the soil type. Again, you want to use the appropriate equipment, coordinate the number of tillage operations and heavy equipment in the field, again, to minimize soil compaction, which could have implications for water movement in the soil, crop growth and development. Soil management. This is one key aspect of good agricultural practices. And soil management entails maintaining soil productivity and soil quality. And we can do this by practicing soil conservation methods, such as to minimize topsoil loss through runoff, utilize well-composted organic matter to amend the soil. Never use fresh manure as it presents a contamination risk. And any organic matter added to the soil should be incorporated to reduce the chances of being run off into water courses or drains. Utilize crop rotation to manage nutrient reserves, because we know that different crops have different nutrient requirements. So by doing crop rotation, we help to build and maintain those reserves in the soil. Again, to prevent compaction and erosion. You know that different crops have different leaf coverage in terms of the soil, so doing crop rotation helps to maintain that topsoil. Next component we're looking at will be crop management. And the start with any crop starts with good planting material. So you should select material that's free from disease and pests and is healthy. Select cultivars of variety based on the resistance to pests and disease. Again. Select crops that are suited to the microclimate to your location. Because your location where you produce your crops may be unique as opposed to someone's another location. So select crops that are suited to that particular location, that particular soil type. Key component in crop protection is field sanitation. Poor field sanitation results in contamination risk to your fields. So fields should be free of trash, paper, plastic containers. This is very important. Restrict livestock movements in the field. Again, these could be a source of fecal contamination from their feces. Farm equipment and tools should be kept clean before and after use to reduce the risk of contamination. Because you could be using equipment in one particular aspect of your field, you may have a problem with pests or disease there, you could be moving to another part of the field and by chance carrying that disease or that pest over to the other side of the field, which is supposed to be free. So these things are things we need to practice. Field sanitation, very critical. Any crop residues remain in the field could be a site for harboring pests and disease. Again, as we mentioned, crop rotation should be done to break pest and disease cycles. If you monocrop all the time, you know you present yourself to one particular pest and disease all the time in that particular field. If you rotate with another crop, you kind of break that cycle to help to reduce and control that pest within that area. IPM, or obviously integrated pest management, is one of the good agricultural practices that should be done on a farm or should be utilized in controlling pest and disease. And it will consist of cultural methods, what you do, biological methods using natural predators, physical methods, actually removing, as I said, crop residue from the field, chemical methods. Now, IPM I will discuss later on in more detail in the presentation, later on.